kör vi igen. Och jag ekar genom hela lokalen här. Hjärtligt välkomna ikväll. Jättekul att se så många här. Idag firar vi ju Goto 10s ettårsdag. Och i morse hade vi lite genomgång av lite highlights av saker som har hänt under året. Och vi har haft fantastiska evenemang här under dagen. Flera föreläsningar och aktiviteter som har hänt. Där man har kunnat bygga saker, där man har kunnat se saker byggas. Man har kunnat titta på saker. Var det någon fråga? Nej. Det har varit mycket spännande som har hänt idag för att fira egentligen allt det roliga som har hänt under det här året. Men dagen är inte slut nu. Nu har vi ju kvällen framför oss. Och det är nu vi ska börja fira ordentligt. Och med det sagt så vill jag, innan jag introducerar kvällens keynote, bara säga några praktiska saker. Om ni vill bli av med lite jackor och sånt, det är bra regnigt ute och man kanske inte vill sitta med dem på, så finns det flera ställen man kan hänga av sig på här inne och även vid ingången. Jag hoppas ni har tagit era Goto 10-kassar och klistermärken runt omkring som ligger i entrén och så vidare. Sen så vet ni kanske också att det är drinkar som ingår efter det här. Och jag hoppas såklart ni stannar för festen. Lite drinkar och lite mat och lite mingel med oss alla här på Goto 10. Med det sagt, kvällens keynote. Hon är CEO och founder av SVRVIVE, SVRVIVE, bara för att få stavningen rätt där. En av Sveriges första VR-företag. Och hon är också moderator för Women in VR. Och ikväll ska hon prata om hur VR och AR med en applicering av neurovetenskap kommer att påverka våra hjärnor och samhället i framtiden. Jag tror att den här föreläsningen kommer att vara på engelska för att vi ska kunna dela med oss av det här materialet efteråt också, för att fler ska kunna ta del av det. So, please join me in welcoming Faviana Vangelius von Heijne.
Tack så mycket. Hello. Good to know that this is working. Wow. Of course, thank you all for actually coming here in this not so fun weather, terrible weather. I can recommend sunnier weathers in VR, which is what I'm gonna talk about. Actually, a little bit nervous because this is my first time on stage pregnant. And it's not the pregnancy in itself, but the fact that I have pregnancy brain. And that is actually a thing. So if I kind of forget or wander around or start thinking about something else, then you know. So bear with me, please. But I'm here to talk about this. Improve your brain and the actual real value of what we call immersive gaming. But because there's so many words, there is VR, there is AR, but there is also MR, and then there is XR, and so many words. So I will just put it VR and AR, virtual reality and augmented reality. So I would like to ask in this audience, who of you have tried virtual reality? Awesome. And who of you have tried augmented reality? Think Pokemon Go. All right? That is actually wonderful to hear, because moving on, it's been 2 years now, since we started this journey together. I actually put my name here so I wouldn't forget to introduce myself as well, because of the pregnancy brain. So I am Faviana Vangelius von Heijne, and CEO and co-founder of Immersive Game Studio. So basically we create virtual reality and augmented reality and mixed reality experiences. And together with this awesome team, we have been exploring this since 2016. Initially, we got a pretty hectic funding, 15 million SEK, and we have also got a Vinnova funding for 300,000 SEK. And we have released 2 games, which are Survive the Disease and Carton, Death by Cardboard, which has both been on the #1 Steam VR bestseller, which we are very happy about. But a very brief history of what we call modern VR and AR, because VR has actually been going on for many centuries. I think it's called inte århundraden. For since the 60s. Thank you. But this is going to be a brief history of the modern VR and AR. So what has been going on? There's been a raging hardware war. It started with Facebook buying Oculus for $2 billion, which is pretty big deal. And then what happened was these other companies creating their own hardware, VR hardware. So HTC Vive, PlayStation with their hardware as well, but also mobile VR with Samsung and Google. And there are plenty more after this, Microsoft HoloLens and many other, but I didn't fit. But what about now? Well, a lot has happened these years that I've been in this industry. For one, the biggest problem and challenges with the hardware itself are already improving. So one of the things have been that it's too expensive, like with all new technology, and another thing that it's been too problematic or heavy to connect. With these new ones, which are from Facebook and their Oculus Go, which actually was released just 2 days ago, with Vive Focus, their own, and Google and Lenovo. These are standalone headsets where you don't need a computer or a mobile phone. You can just take the headset and then you're there, which is a really, really great thing for us. Once again, because to tackle the hurdles of actually setting up the systems. And it's more immersive than mobile VR. And then Apple happened, and they introduced ARKit and Google with their AR Core, which actually means that we can now use our phones with augmented reality. But the interesting thing here is not this itself, but that we are going somewhere, and it's happening rapidly. Who of you have tried these standalone headsets? Okay, so in 2 years, everyone will have tried them, right? But it's amazing to see the technology happening so fast, and it's just really to show that don't underestimate the exponential growth, how quickly things are escalating and happening. But besides the hardware and also now including software, we're also seeing it in media. We're seeing it on TV, and also with the blockbuster movie Ready Player One, for instance, Steven Spielberg. So you can actually see it in the media, and you can also integrate it with the immersive media, where you can be inside VR looking at the movies. So it's pretty meta in that way. And of course, the more important thing is us, the consumers. And just a quick search on Google Analytics is just to show how the interest, I don't know if you see, I feel like I am blocking the view, but the interest is showing that we are being curious and we are looking into this with VR games, which is what we make, VR video, or also called VR 360, and the most dominating, which is the blue one, VR porn. So why am I into VR and AR besides VR porn? Well, for one, it's rich with imagination. This is from a software called Tilt Brush, which is like paint, but in VR. So you can actually be inside your creation, which is pretty cool. and you can just create anything. And another, obviously, it's cool and immersive, of course, for you that has tried. It's really something special, even mobile VR, but just entering and being there and feeling that you are there in the spectrum. It's a very beautiful feeling. And this is from our latest game called Carton, which I'm actually very proud and so happy with my team. We released this not too long ago. And so just a little glimpse of how it looks like. And then, of course, yes, it can make you scream, of course, like this lady. So if you haven't tried yet, please do. It's an experience. But besides all of this, I would like to talk about my true reasons of working with the immersive gaming, or AR or VR, or whatever you want to call it. And I would like to start with my first, which is to explore uncharted territory and really explore something new. And when I talk about exploring something new, I don't necessarily mean VR and AR per se. It can be any unknown or uncharted territory. Either you want to apply it to smartphones when it came first, or social media, or today's technology with blockchain or whatever else. The common thing with all of this is that it's uncharted territory. So I would like to share with you some learnings that I have from started this virtual reality and augmented reality game studio. So the first one being in uncharted territory, to be quick and fast. And with this, I mean that you get to have market shares, partnerships, and insights. And what I mean with this is that when we first started SVRVIVE Studios, there weren't many other studios around creating the VR experiences. So we quickly got to have a broader market share, but we also got in contact with the big players, so to speak, Facebook, Google, Microsoft, Sony. I mean, we had a relationship and still have good relationship with all of them. Because once again, we are, there is a hardware war, and we are the content producers. We create the experiences for them. So we are friends with everyone. But just the fact that we are able to have a relationship, communicating with them, a tiny studio like us in Stockholm, based in Stockholm, it's really has been beneficial. And now, 2 years later, I can honestly say that maybe we've been lucky, but it's more difficult to get in contact with these big players once again, because there are so many other studios out there now. And of course, the insights. We got to learn a lot of things in the beginning because we were fast, things that the rest wouldn't know after they came after us. And of course, the second thing is to build on the unique market value. In this case, with VR and AR, I have chosen escapism and immersiveness, because this is what makes the medium truly unbelievable. Experience strong emotions. When you are in the headset, you get so much more immersed and a lot of more feelings than if you were just to look at a screen or a movie in that sense. And of course, the impact on the brain, which is the main focus of this talk. But if it's anything else, either if it's blockchain or smartphones, like whatever, just to think about the unique market value it is that you're doing. And of course, the pushes have to be innovative. Once again, when we first started, which seems like ages ago, but it's only 2 years, we had to learn everything by ourselves, because there were no blueprints. There were no schools or YouTube clips or whatever, how to create a VR experience. No, we had to learn everything by ourselves, and a lot of trial and error. And also to explore the new opportunities, because as you know, with new innovation comes really new opportunities to seize it. And of course to aim to set the standards for the future, because we are the ones that are creating this and setting the standards. And one of the classics, of course, to fuck up more. Here it's been difficult, of course, and to just fail, just the word fail, it's really not something people are embracing, but we should, because just to see the failures as learnings, of course. So we have just tried many things and made epic fails, as we should. And to also learn from it, of course, to analyze it. Make friends. This picture is taken from an event called Stockholm VR Meetup. One of our first events where we were showcasing our experiences. But there are really good benefits in making friends. Building a community such as Stockholm VR Meetup. If you are in another town that doesn't have a VR meetup or AR meetup, you could build it yourself to really talk to other people that doing the same things or has the same interests, and to see others, either startups or whatever, as colleagues and not competitors, because we are truly in this space together and trying to create something together. So to see each other as enemies, it's just not going to be good for anyone. It's what we believe. And of course, to say yes to the curious, because when I first started, I didn't know what to do, where to go, who to talk to. So I'm so tremendously grateful for the people that actually took a coffee or fika, as we say in Sweden, with me to talk about something crazy called VR 3 years ago, actually. Something that didn't even exist yet out in the stores. To just help each other out, basically. And then, of course, diversify your team. And, of course, besides the more obvious ones, such as gender equality and different backgrounds and all of that, which I think is just already obvious, to welcome differences from different backgrounds as well, in the sense of work backgrounds. Maybe if we are a gaming studio, maybe we should not only employ gaming people, to also have other types of personalities as well. And to really use the power of the crowd. Just because, once again, I'm the CEO, but doesn't mean that I have full control, really. Like, we are together in this and creating something amazing together. And to let your people mingle is exactly what we're doing here. To, once again, see each other, talk to other really brilliant people, to learn something from one another. And the seventh and the last learning that I have is to find your own voice. And by this I mean that in the beginning, when we started the studio, we had a lot of, I wouldn't say hate, but there were, internet can be very mean, okay? So when we first launched our studio called SVRVIVE, nobody could pronounce it. It's actually is Survive, but it's spelled with a VR, and we thought it was clever, but internet wasn't so pleased. So we got a lot of YouTubers and Twitch people and Reddit, of course, a lot of people on the internet being trolls. So what we did then initially was that just owning it, like, okay, we're gonna do something of this. And because of that, we had it in our trailer. So this is just to show how we found our voice.
from the creators of virtually nothing, except the pre-alpha demo of the same title. Are you ready to unveil the mystery? SVRVIVE, the Deus Helix.
So after we launched this, which was also very nervous, we actually got a lot of praise from the same trolls and internet. So we're really happy about that. So back to my real reasons to why I chose VR and AR. So the second part is new challenges that let me rethink. As you know, creating games for either VR, AR, MR is not entirely the same thing as creating games for either smartphone or computer or any other games. And this has really helped us in being innovative or to have fun, but also a lot of headaches, of course, because once again, there are no blueprints. This is a quote from Ashley Taylor Anderson saying, "One of the most difficult things about crafting a narrative for virtual reality is that the story no longer functions in two dimensions." And some of examples that we have and still are tackling is field of view. So if you have a screen, either it's a game or a movie, you have that field of view. But what happens when you put the player or the user or the person in VR that can all of a sudden look everywhere and anywhere the person wants? Like, how do you manage that inside of a story? Another pretty big headache has been the tempo, the speed of the narrative. Our first game, we didn't have time set for when you have to be finished with a certain level. So we just enabled the player to have all the time in the world to play the game, which in the end happened to be one of the longest games when we released, because it was up to 5 hours. People could be just, it's like, hello, it's a game, you should move on. It was fun because my mom would be very quick, and she would just speed run through the games, while my dad would be just looking at the objects and just really taking a lot of time. So it's funny how we are so different. Another third dilemma, which is what we call the Swayze Effect. How do we put the player inside the game without the player feeling like a ghost? Because this is actually a thing. If you are in an environment and there is clearly a wall here, but in VR, you can just look through. So you're a ghost. So that's also another challenge that we're still tackling in the industry. And besides the creation, also the things that are happening in real life with, once again, Pokemon Go as an example. Pikachu reminds you that Pokemon trainers must not trespass on federal property. So this is actually happening where people will create Pokestops on places in the real world now we're talking about. People not allowed to go, but people still trespassing just to get their Pokemons. So new challenges are developed also in real life. And another more recent one from MoMA, which is the Modern Museum of Art in New York, with virtual trespassing, where someone or some people, guests, has entered the museum, taking a lot of pictures, and then created their own virtual modern space. And how this works is that guests just download either an app with an augmented reality, and they can enter the museum and look at completely different things than the museum is actually offering. And this is not MoMA who is behind MoMA AR, which is what they have called this. So who is behind this, and it makes us question who owns the virtual space, and how can we stop it, or should we stop it? So there's definitely different challenges also in real life. And this is just a museum, but what happens if people start doing these schools and churches and I don't know what, with entirely more inappropriate things than this? And then my third and last real reason, it's that new opportunities let me grow. And also not grow as a human being, of course, because I get to learn a lot, but also to give something back. As a very young gaming studio, essentially, even though we create immersive games experiences, the gaming industry itself is very young. If you compare it to the movie industry or even the music industry, the game industry is fairly very young, and therefore also pretty immature. Coming in as like a girl, of course, where there are not many other girls, but also more from different thinking, has really made me grow as a person, but also try to meet the other people in the industry. I grew up with games, so I love games, and I have shot and killed a lot in games. I'm still a fairly normal person, but there is also room for other types of game experiences, which is what I'm gonna talk about now. And the very cool thing about the gaming industry itself is this, that there are 2 billion people playing, or players, from all ages, nationalities, and playing on either smartphones or computers, VR, AR, and God knows what else in the future. So there's really room to impact the players as a game developer, which I think it's very, very cool. And now, the last part, the real value of VR and AR, or what I call immersiveness.
Right now, we're inside a computer program.
Is it really so hard to believe?
This isn't real.
Real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
Real is just electrical signals interpreted by your brain. This basically means that we now can create the Matrix. Remember that movie?
We already live in a construct of reality. So the idea that we could create a virtual environment that is as real or less real is a complicated question, because just because it's virtual doesn't mean it's not real. Given enough complexity of the stimuli, it could be indistinguishable.
So what you experience in this case, virtual reality, your brain seems to log as an actual memory. So this is a real game changer, not just for the gaming industry, but for our brains. And what we already know about the effects of immersiveness or VR, it's that it's a real mindfucker. Because think about this, it mimics reality so well that our brains perceives it as reality. So even though you are in this game or movie or whatever it is you are enjoying, you know this, you can either see the pixels or whatever, your brain still becomes a little, I don't know how to say it, but it feels like it is for real. And right now, we have the visuals in the headset, either it's virtual reality or augmented reality, we can see it. We have also that we can hear, but they're also coming up with haptic suits, so we can feel, and also smells, so we can smell, and then taste. So if you think about it, it's not too long until we are in Matrix. So the research, and also I would like to add, I'm not a neuroscientist myself, so bear with me, but what the studies are saying so far is, for one, that we can make workout more fun, which means it's easier for our brains to accept the physical challenge for those who are not so sports interested or whatever. So this is actually already happening. 50 pounds is roughly 20 kilos. Another, which is even more outstanding, is to use the medium to take off our minds out of pain. And we're already seeing this at either hospitals, but also if you're going to the dentist, if you are going to take either a blood sample or something, you can use this to distract in a more efficient way. Another study, an example, if you want to, I can read. We can use VR to restore attention and improve cognitive performance by interacting with nature scenery. A VR session for 20 minutes can be almost as effective in restoring cognition as is hiking for 4 days. So instead of Stockholm, it's raining now, but if we'll be in the virtual nature where it's sunny, we could also have an improve of our cognitive performance and just improve our brain in that way. And here with I can never pronounce this, paraplegics, thank you, learning to walk again with virtual reality. So just like it says there, by monitoring the brain activity, researchers found out how to trick the patient's brains into actually feeling like they are walking. And therefore, twice a week for an hour a day, patients were hooked up to a VR headset, Oculus in this case, and trained to use their brain waves to control a virtual avatar of themselves walking. Basically, once again, to trick the brain. And by this, the paraplegics, thank you, learn to walk again. And lastly, why be human in VR when you can be a dinosaur or have 3 arms in this case? It's way more fun. This is a Stanford study, researchers, where they could show that in just a few minutes in VR, in this environment, our brains could learn how to use these 3 arms instead of 2, which is also how. But it's just to show that it is possible. So think about it. We can now change reality and pain, make people walk again, and give them 3 arms. So yes, immersiveness pretty much turns us into gods. But once again, since me coming from the gaming industry and seeing all these benefits, amazing things we can do with this new medium, both in VR and AR, I still feel that there is something that we need to think about. Because with this almighty great power now that we're having, we don't really know yet what negative effects this might have or could have on us. So basically, therefore, I think that it is important to think the potential risks as we design our experiences, because essentially we are the designers, we are the people that are creating these experiences for us to experience. So we should really make sure to use our God-like powers for good. Not to say that we should end with games or other experiences that like this ones, because they're still very fun, but just to also think what kind of responsibility and also effect it has on this new medium as VR and AR versus just playing on a computer. So that's why I would really welcome an industry association, so we together as an industry can figure out how to mess with our brains in a more responsible way, just to have it in mind. So, is virtual reality the ultimate empathy machine? Well, yes, I think so, or at least me and my studio think so. And there are being more developers out there that think so. And that's not just to say in the gaming industry, but really all industries. Either it's in hospital or education or any other industry. And because of that, we as a studio have started focusing and also collaborating with the real experts, which are the neuroscientists and other psychologists, to try to create a game experience that has a positive impact on the brain. So the things that we have already been experimenting with, and this is just pre-alpha footage, so it's just in the experimentation phase still. Basically this, to increase empathy and compassion to the player, to become more helpful towards others, learn to deal with various emotional states in yourself and others. And what we have done is basically we have started to create an adventure game, because really in the end, even if it has all these benefits, we still want to experience something fun, because if it's not fun, then we don't want to experience it, and then the whole concept fails. So the most important is that it's a fun game. And in this game, you as a player help a small, tiny girl to save her lost brother, and this is set out to be in a Nordic fairy tale forest. Now it could be anywhere, but we decided it to be this way. And how do we then intend to make this game have all these things? Well, we are using different techniques, which I'm going to show. And once again, with the help of the neuroscientists and the psychologists, we have really come a long way now. So one of them is learning emotional needs. It's the game itself, it's built around the psychology of a person's needs to feel emotionally stable. So for instance, the little girl needs to feel safe. She needs food and fun and activities and positive relationships. So you, as the player, helps her in her adventure. And what we really let the player is explore and understand these needs as part of the story. Another trick that we're using or experimenting with is that we're using both audio and haptics to create an emotional link between you and the main character, and in this case, this little girl. So, for instance, whenever the little girl, Lily is what we're calling her, whenever she gets hurt, you, as the player, feels haptic input, vibrations in your hand. We're not hurting the player, like you don't get a shock, it's just a little vibration. And this is intended to teach your brain that whatever happens to this girl also happens to you. So, according to research, that should increase your empathy and compassion. So it's just one other of the examples that we have. And then we have other more examples. But we have already had our first studies, and we're collaborating with researchers in the US to monitor and see, is this having some kind of effect? Because that is really our ultimate goal. To, yes, it's a fun game, but is it also having all these other things, like I said, with the empathy and all of that? And the good news is that, yes, our first brain scans actually show promise. And this is, of course, amazing, because it let us understand and know that we are on the right path. Of course, not a perfect first example, but we are truly on a correct and right path to what it is we want to aim or want to create. And just to show that it can be possible and welcome others and show that it is possible. If it's going to be complete, we won't know until more research, of course, and more studies. And this game, it's together with the help of Vinnova, once again, for all the research. We won't know until the next year when we are releasing it. So it's still a lot of time ahead, or still a lot of time left, but we're on our way. And it's just a start in the end, both for us, but really as an industry at large. Not only us as a studio, but as the industry. And really hope that the rise of gaming, immersive gaming, it's what we call it, will also mean a rise in awareness of how we can use games or movies or whatever you want to create in VR and AR to make ourselves and the world a little bit better. And I think that to me is the true value of immersive gaming or VR and AR. So I would like to end with Keanu Reeves entering the Matrix. So, thank you. And opening up for questions, I believe.
Yes, I'd say
Yes.
thank you so much for this most interesting, fantastic presentation. I think you'll agree with me on this, and I'm sure there will be plenty of questions coming up. We have first one right here.
Hi, thanks very much. It's very interesting. Empathy in teaching history or contemporary social political issues. What do you think about that as not necessarily a game, but actually in educating people how things were or are in different parts of the world?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why we're doing this through a game is because if we're coming out with, oh, this is gonna make you more empathetic, I don't believe people are automatically very thrilled, and especially if you want to lure in the younger kids, because they are the people playing the most, the younger generation. So if we already can have the younger generation experiencing this, then I think we will be on the right way, and then that will affect the rest. Either it's the political or whatever. So I hope that answered your question.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much for the presentation. It was very focused on VR and a little bit less on AR.
Yes.
Is that because AR is not there yet, and why do you think so?
Yes, that is true. The reason why it's more VR than AR, it's because we started off as a virtual reality game studio, and not only some few months ago we started experimenting with AR. So we really we haven't launched anything for AR. So we're just only experimenting with it, but it's definitely happening. Yeah, I also have to wait for more research and studies made there.
The AR headsets are not as advanced.
Yes, so it's not that the AR headsets aren't more advanced. It's more that it hasn't reached the mainstream as much or as equal. If there are already AR headsets such as Microsoft HoloLens, for instance, but that is more of an industry headset and really way too expensive for a normal consumer to have. And then also I would say that the researchers would also tackle with that problem. But it will come, more research. And once again, it being more integrated with VR and becoming what we call MR or mixed reality, they will both go hand in hand. So you will, I don't know how it's gonna look. Either we're gonna have glasses, we're gonna be chip implanted in our brain, I don't know, but it's gonna be both integrated.
My name is Kerem. I'm project manager for the first tech youth care center in Sweden, in Tensta, Tech Tensta.
Cool.
I'm wondering if we have more focus on creation than gaming. What can we, do you think it's applicable to teach out like Unity or programming to 13 to 19 years old so they can create and see what they create as well?
Yes, definitely. And that is also one of my passion projects, aside from managing a immersive game studio, is to have more interest in creating this types of experiences. So to actually, I'm out in schools and trying to say, this is the best job in the world. And it's funny that you're mentioning Unity, and there's also Unreal and several other it's game engines. The really cool thing is that it's 2018, and we have come so far in the way we create things that it's so easy to, yes, even a 13-year-old to be able to create this. You can definitely, also with games, it's a more fun thing to create, but either the kids are interested in movies or, but as a matter of fact, other industries are already looking into this. So you have big branch.
Construction.
Construction, thank you. Pregnancy brain. Construction people, industry are, instead of creating models in the old way, they're all looking into the gaming engines. So not only the game engines for games, but also for other industries. And that can be applied for kids as well, for sure, which is really fun.
Do you think that it decreases stress if you use VR?
And they are. That it really, really depends. Depends of the experience. If you are... So one of a very good friend of mine, Erik, who is also a neuroscientist, he says that if you give me 24 hours to create an experience, I can give a person post-traumatic stress for life. It's like, this is obviously not something you want to do, but it's, imagine the...
I asked for the opposite.
Exactly, the opposite. And the same could be applied for stress. Like, it's, you can really put a person in a really bad state. But using it as what I've been talking about, either nature or something calming, you can have a yoga session, or it really depends of the experience, of course, and the mood you're in. So, yeah, so we have people that are entering VR just to be more relaxed and reduce stress. Pregnancy brain, sorry.
All right, any other questions? Otherwise, I have one, or we do have one here.
Hi. So
Hey.
you, as a VR consumer, what are you most excited for in the near future? Like, what's a game or an experience that you're looking forward to in the coming year or whatever?
What I'm looking mostly is for the social interaction. So right now it's very single player. You get to immerse yourself, but it's very lonely. Now there are coming up multiplayer versions, so you can be inside the games or the movies with friends and family, but it's very there are not many of those. So I really look forward to consume either a movie or a game together with people that I love. So like going to the cinema, and we can go together and see together, but in VR and AR. And what I mostly look forward to is the newer technologies that are coming. So it is easier to enter these mediums. But multiplayer and social is the most top priority. Thank you for your question.
All right, I have a final question here. I'm just curious about this because you're really basing your development here on research and looking into how to have a social impact really on people, or neuropsychological or neuroscientific impact. Would you say that that's responsibility among game developers to do, or no? Since you know that all experiences do have significant impact on our brains.
I can only say what research and the studies are saying. I do believe that we're gonna see these things takes time. So not only in the future will we see or know what true impact this is having on us, right? It's like the same when, I don't know, the TV came out and the parents were like, don't sit too close to the TVs because your eyesight will be damaged or something. And then the smartphones with the strålning, radiation, etc. So we don't know this until way later, unfortunately. What I do know is what I have seen. I can only say by own experience. And it is that, well, let's just say that we will have the first heart attack, unfortunately. There are some really crazy things being created, but also really amazing things. So we don't know, once again, what will happen, if there will be laws. Obviously, you can't drive and be in a virtual reality at the same time, maybe. Unless it's a self-driving car, I don't know. But I think only time will tell.
So many possibilities. Well, thank you so much for this. Let's thank Faviana together. This was an amazing presentation.
And thank you for having me, and happy birthday to Goto.
Thanks on behalf of Goto 10. Now let's celebrate. I think you all got drink tickets, so I think they've all set up the drinks over here and food over there. So yeah, enjoy. Happy birthday, Goto 10.